This season of Formula One has been nothing short of surprising, as it's taking an entirely different storyline compared to the previous years in which Mercedes has been dominating for most of the time. Mercedes isn't having the good old Mercedes Championship run this season because of multiple issues that they haven't quite gotten to the bottom of yet. After Lewis Hamilton and George Russell didn't quite get the best results that any driver would have wanted, it gets a little frustrating when you know you could have done better. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about what has transpired during and after the race in Miami. Why was Lewis Hamilton extra disappointed with his team? Why wasn't George Russell in the best mood? Tune in to find out. But before we get into it, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more of our video updates. At the last Miami Grand Prix, the defending Constructors' champion Mercedes wasn't doing very well. Not as well as they were in previous seasons. It's not to say that they've been doing poorly lately, as if we give them due credit, they're honestly still one of the top teams of the season. But they've been surpassed on the grid by both long-term rivals, Red Bull and Ferrari. And it has been very disappointing, since the team has got a lot to lose when they're free-falling to third place after being the kings of F1 for 7 straight seasons. One half of Mercedes' driver lineup, 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, had an incredibly frustrating race at the weekend in Miami, as he owed the non-podium finish to poor or lack of team communication that would have made the difference between being placed in 6th to coming out on top. Hamilton made critical claims about the strategy that his team was implementing while he was driving speedily on the tracks after a big decision that cost him a lot was left to him alone. It was a decision of whether Hamilton should go back to the garage and pit to change tires when a yellow flag was waved or not at all. During the nerve-wracking race that got everyone on the edge of their seats, Hamilton had tried and asked his team repeatedly if they had decided for him to do the pit stop, since it was a good opportunity to do so since a safety car had been triggered by McLaren driver Lando Norris's crash. Hamilton leaving the track to box would mean that he would have to trade off his race position to change to the soft tires, so that he would have a better chance of reclaiming some leading positions and climbing up the rankings. Normally, the team and its chief would have already decided for Hamilton, and all he has to do would be to follow the orders, since he really can't assess what's going on in the whole race. This is what usually happens during races, but this time in Miami, it seemed as though the team had let loose and had instead left the decision to Hamilton on whether or not he would want to pit. Eventually, Hamilton had decided to stay out and continue with the race himself, but while he was driving, he was already quite disappointed in his team's lack of decisiveness. We're not sure what had happened then, though, because later on in the race with almost 6 laps left, his teammate George Russell had already passed by him later on, and it became quite evident that Hamilton was not very keen on what had transpired with how much the decision to pit was left all to himself. But that's what your job is. Decide for me. You've got all the details. I don't. I just rely on the guys for that, but today they gave it to me. I don't understand it. It was a bit unfortunate with the safety car, but at least we got the points today. Reliability is good. It would be good at some stage to take a step forward, which we haven't yet. Both of the Mercedes drivers have been struggling quite a lot lately with how their new cars are not really at par with their standards of speed, consistency, and reliability. With a lot of porpoising that affects the driver's overall performance that is yet to be solved, Mercedes still has a lot of work to do to resolve, and if they want to stay on track to defend their championship throne and reclaim a driver's championship. 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton's performance has not been the same ever since his controversial loss to Max Verstappen in the 2021 Formula One season, and it's very disheartening for a lot of his fans. But at the same time, a lot of Formula One fans have been loving about how new drivers are emerging for podiums and the eventual trophy, such as Charles Leclerc and George Russell. They said it adds more flavor to the sport, since it's mostly really just been Hamilton versus Verstappen the past few years. Now, on with the topic of the other Mercedes driver, George Russell, who is, by the way, doing much better than his teammate and his former self while he was still in a Williams car. Russell has shown Mercedes indeed made a good choice about taking him in for the team. It can also be recalled and noted, though, that Russell had substituted for Hamilton in 2020 when he caught COVID, so apparently that was a very good glimpse of how much Russell could contribute to the team. However, even with a lot of stellar performances, Russell is not spared about the issues that plague the Mercedes car. During the free practices on the weekend in Miami, Russell drove like one of the best drivers that have ever graced the track. But in the actual race, the free practice results did not translate quite well, and he had said that it was just all because of bad strategy. Both of the Mercedes drivers have been very vocal about how the car is one of the main struggles about them not clinching the usual 1-2. But Russell had always seemed to be the better handler, as previously mentioned. He had placed 5th in the race, and that was all because of a last-minute strategy switch. When Russell was pushed back to a grid position of 12th, Mercedes knew the most viable strategy was to wish for a safety car so that it would be easier for Russell to catch up with the rest and land in the scoring positions. This is because when a safe car is deployed, all cars must have to fall in line and drive only at a limited speed, so when it comes out, everyone is too close to everyone else and the gap between cars is lessened. Mercedes' wish had eventually come true after Lando Norris suffered from a very disheartening crash. But as a lot of people say, always be careful of what you wish for, because Russell eventually caught what his team had hoped for. The biggest victim was his fellow Mercedes driver, Lewis Hamilton. It was a good battle. When you battle with your teammate, you have to show a bit of respect and give a bit more room than normal, said Russell. That pass on Hamilton was a bit tricky. I went a bit wide. It's so dirty offline on this circuit. I enjoyed it, and there's good respect between us. Lewis was unlucky today, and when you're on 20-lap-old hard tires, there's nothing you can do, really. Russell did not perform that badly, though, but it wasn't stellar either, as he had then placed 5th on the Miami GP, and he's had some mixed feelings about it. Given our performance on Saturday, it's a good result, but if you had told me that after free practice we would be so far away from winning, I would have been disappointed, said Russell. The current number 4 of the World Cup standings, like Hamilton, feels that Mercedes is capable of more than it has shown in the first 5 races of the season. Russell had then emphasized that their performances are not lackluster at all, and their car has a lot more potential than what it has shown in the previous 5 races. Despite having a lot of issues with porpoising and reliability, he still believes that the Mercedes W13 has not been given due and enough credit, because it's still one of the best cars on the grid. He further promised that he'll be continuing to try and unlock the car's best and full performance right after he described the race in Miami as brutal. I was pushing as hard as I could, said Russell. It was a brutal race out there. It was so hot, sweaty, my eyes were stinging. I had sweat pouring into my eyes, so I need to find a way to get around that. He said, by talking very candidly to reporters, that he has had mixed feelings about the finish following his good performance during free practice. I think it's mixed feelings, to be honest, he added, because based on where we were yesterday, today was a good result. But if you had told me after Friday that we would finish P5 and P6 and that far behind P1, I would have been pretty disappointed. So, we have a fast racing car in there, but we don't have the key to unlock this performance. We don't understand why that is, so there's work to do. Red Bull driver and defending Drivers' Champion Max Verstappen went on to claim the victory in Miami after suffering from multiple DNF ratings in the previous races through fending off Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc, which was, by the way, also a product of the safety car deployment. I guess we could say that it wasn't just Russell who benefited, but Max as well. Because of what turned out in Miami, gaps in points have been cut, such as Verstappen drawing in closer to Leclerc, who's currently number 1 in the rankings with 29 points between them and the championship. Their constructors, Ferrari and Red Bull, only have 6 points in between them for whoever would be taking the lead. Mercedes, on the other hand, sadly remains in the 3rd spot, something that no one is used to seeing. Do you guys think Mercedes will be able to catch up? Let me know in the comment section below. And of course, before you go, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more video updates. Until next time.